Welcome to the Rising Feminine Online Temple Season 3. This is our third year facilitating a week long of sacred feminine initiations for women like us to remember to journey back home to our feminine. Sisters, my name is Janika D'Souza and I'm a feminine lifestylist, also the keeper of this online temple space, where today we have gathered visionaries from around the world to join forces to hold space for you to deepen your connection to your feminine.
Mm.
And as a feminine lifestylist, I always invite women to bring in rituality, small rituality into their busy lives so that we can learn to nourish, nurture, and listen to our feminine wisdom. And on as a participant of this online temple, I invite you to create this sacred space today. Maybe get a cup of your favorite tea or light a candle or whatever it is for you, but give yourself the time to get present, to receive today's medicine that is being shared with you today. Joining us today on this day is Sister Sophia Wise One. And before we begin, I would like to read a little bit about her so that you get to know her beautiful sacred presence in this world. She is the
Mm.
host of the podcast Vagina Talks with Sophia Weisburn, and Sophia has made a safe space for over 1,000 people to hear their own inner wisdom, discover unconditional self-love, and develop the power to express their unique truth.
Mm.
Bringing 30 plus years of experience to her work. She's been at this stuff since she was a child. Sophia is a master of helping people through pain, blocks, trauma, and difficult transitions to find healing, happiness, and creative renewal on the other side of discomfort. A
Mm.
professional holistic practitioner for 20 years, she is trained in over 20 modalities, including being certified holistic pelvic care provider, which is what we're going to dive into a little bit today.
Mhm.
Reiki master, licensed massage therapist. She calls the work soul unification and practices and teaches and mentors other medicine callers to do it in their own unique way. She's the creator of I Love My Life card game and oracle deck, which includes an expansive skill building guidebook. Sophia's known for her candor, love, digging deep, laughing the whole way, and always asking, who would you be if you were truly yourself? Welcome, sister.
Oh, thank you, Jonita. Happy to be here. Thank you. And thank you, sisters. Thank you, temple tenders, temple arrivers, initiates. There it is. That is the word I'll use. Initiates. It's a
Yeah.
pleasure and an honor to be here. Yeah.
So I have seen Sophia's work, and I know some of the sisters who will be joining here are also aware of Sophia's work. We've been crossing each other's path over the beautiful world of internet, and I'm so delighted to talk to her on one of my favorite topics, and I assume her favorite topics as well. So can't wait to begin. Before we begin, as a tradition in this online temple, I pull up a goddess card to check in which goddess is available present for us to share this transmission. I want to share that with you. So, goddess butterfly maiden of transformation
Mm.
showed up, and there she is. There's the message. So, I want to quickly check in with you, Sophia, if there is any resonance you feel with this beautiful goddess in this moment.
Absolutely. I am just this morning, there was a butterfly, a very big butterfly that came through. So I'm moon lodging currently. So I'm bleeding and mostly in retreat space, and had moved my retreat space, took my free bleeding pad out to the chair in the yard and got myself all snuggled in. And this butterfly came out, and it was just, the wings just had this bigness. It just felt like a bigness. And I really feel the blessing of that card is you're in a time of great transformation, which in turn is a time of great blessings, right? Like the transformation is a blessing, which, I might, I don't claim that that's always the case, right? But that's very much happening. I feel that to be very true this season, this like, summer on the northern hemisphere, winter in the southern hemisphere, but this turning of the seasons right now, it's almost, I can feel it. We've like, talked about this, and by we, I mean medicine people for centuries, this turning of the poles, this turning of the tide, this turning of perspective. And I feel that as we move towards solstice, this kind of gaining energy, this turning energy, and it feels momentous, and it feels like a lot of people are feeling a little crummy in that, and kind of gross, and also really inspired. So I'm like very much like, yes, that is what's happening.
Exactly. Yeah, I relate to that. And it's also related to what we will be touching on today, which is also, the expression of, and we spoke about pelvic care, and I know your work, and having witnessed you express in this world your sacred presence. A lot of your work is around women, and reclaiming that aspect of themselves, which, we have shoulded.
Right. Shoulded all over ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
And each other.
And each
Uh-huh.
other. Yeah. So uh, let's begin our conversation. Pelvic care. What is that? For
What is,
someone who is like, just tuning in and like,
huh?
pelvic care.
Great. This, so pelvic care is a number of different things. It can refer to kind of a bunch of different aspects. In the most like basic common language space, when we're talking about pelvic care, we're talking about the pelvic floor muscles, which is actually kind of the other diaphragm. That's like, people don't even know. People think about the abdominal diaphragm at the above the bottom of the lungs, and it's another diaphragm is just like a swing of muscles. So it's the swing of muscles at the base of our body, in the base of our hips. So our pelvic floor health, meaning the vitality of our muscles, the ability to relax and be dynamic, meaning to engage as well as relax, really impacts a, a lot through the body. Literally, it's the foundation of our spine, of our organs, of our ability to be in alignment. So one of the things that I want to kind of say here is that as I talk, almost everything that I say is both a metaphor and not a metaphor.
Mhm.
So when we're talking about the root or the pelvic floor, we're talking about it being the base of the foundation, and everything sits on top of it, and it's the root. And that's both literal or clitoral, as I like to say. That it's literally our foundation, as well as energetically, or in yoga practice, the root chakra is also this base foundation of where it is. So there's like the pelvic floor, kind of like a little bit like the pelvic floor muscles, and then we can swing all the way over into root care. And root care is the whole pelvic bowl, and that kind of goes from the hips, the top of the hips, down to the sits bones, includes the hip bones, and then includes all the generative organs. So for people who are identify as female and have vaginas and vulvas and wombs, then we're talking about that space in there. For people who have penises or testicles or any variation of genitals, that whole space, that root space, is the generative energy location for all of us. So we all have womb energy, we all have generative energy, we all have the seed as well as the place that we hold that seed to come into growth. We have that energy inside us. And so for me, when I'm talking about pelvic care, I'm going from the most basic, like muscle vitality, which tells the story of our body's our body's vitality, because it's just that simple, to all the way into having access and feeling into our consciousness in our generative self. So what are we wanting? What are we creating? The pelvic care or the root care is also about recognizing that our desires is what creates our reality, in kind of in an unconscious way, that we create from the root up, that we build our existence in an energetic way from that place. And so to come into that space with consciousness is to come into a place of consciously creating our reality for ourselves and shared.
Yeah, I like that you said that we create from the root up. And often when we think of creation, or at least how we've been taught, is all like in the head or in upper body. Whereas for women, for us, like it is so essential to connect to the root essence. And today, on this day of where we are sharing about sacred leadership, um, it's so interesting to touch this topic, because when we talk about leadership and expression and communication, authenticity, pelvic floor care is somewhere out of picture. which is why which is why we are doing this. And
That's right.
I
Bringing it into the picture. Let's
bringing
talk about it. Yeah.
goodness. So let's talk about how does it impact oneself. I know, first of all, when I start talking about the pelvic floor and any energy exercises around it, women tend to say that, oh, I don't feel anything. I
Yes.
don't know what it is. And that is also a great indication of how we have disowned our, truest, authentic expression in this world, even though we may be thinking that we're doing the work that we want, and we have this good job and everything else that we want, but there is something more than that that has been shooted as you say. So share with us like how this impacts expressing oneself.
So what bodies have taught me is that the patterns of our pelvic floor, the patterns of our root. So our root includes our ability to take up space and exist.
Mm,
Ability. That's a funny way to say that. It is the place that we admit that we exist, that we admit that we have a right to be here, or we deny that we have a right to be here. Take up space. The root, my favorite root teaching that came to me early on in the work was, we're made of space and matter. We take up space and matter.
mm,
So a lot of us, and it's like I zoom in, it's like a lot of us struggle with that.
yeah.
And a lot of us as women, if we've been socialized as women, or if you're just a sensitive, like empathetic, empath person connecting, people pleasing, doing what you're supposed to do, shoulding on yourself and other people, is a way to get through. And it's so early on, the pattern in the pelvic floor really determines how we then go from there, take up space and how much we matter. So if we're trying to earn the right to take up space, that's going to be in our pelvic floor. If we're at peace and well and take responsibility and joy in the fact that we take up space, that's going to be there. And the choices that we make and how we lead are going to be deeply affected by whether or not we're leading to earn our right to be on the planet, or if we're leading from a place of knowing our responsibility that we are on the planet, that we have a right to be here, that we have a responsibility, that we have a gift, like all of that place of power. And so most of those patterns are actually set by the age 7. That's what I found, that the patterns are there by age 7. And so right there, I invites people to kind of take it out of the realm of limited to sexual or romantic
Yeah.
relationship, right? It's like I'm talking about patterns that are just base, like, do you have a right to be on this planet? Do you think it's okay that you're here? You know? And so that we'll run those patterns over and over and over again unless we consciously shift them. Or if we're trained differently. So if you have really, really good mentorship in your teen years, that might really shift those patterns in a big way. But a lot of us didn't. A lot of us are just kind of learned to cope and then just kept coping. And then we're professionals, 40 years old, coping with responsible people, signing checks, spending money, like coping, just like coping with everything. And so that coping, that survival coping, sits in the pelvic floor. And so to care for that and to create, again, this is that dynamic, the ability to relax, feel, open, know, connect, right? That happens down there in that when we're relaxed and we're open, in sensation increases. When we're tight, when we're gripping, when we're holding, that inhibits the ability for neuroactivity in that space, circulation, energetic flow. All of those things get constricted there. So if we want to be in our vital self, caring so that that space can relax and then engage in a strong way, being able to strength, right, is not about being tight and staying tight. And that's one of the things that I think we've culturally been told. Strength is being able to get tight and stay tight.
Yeah.
And that's how long,
Yeah.
that's right. How long can you maintain a state of tension? It's not the feminine way, right? That's not it. And the question is until you can't. I mean, that's the answer, right? It's like, how can you until you fucking shit the bucket? Like, it's just, we don't. All of us crap out at some point on that. Some people it's at 80, some people it's at 30. And a lot of the time for women, it happens when they are professionals and have children, and then their partnership gets hard, and then they get sick, or one of those things drops off. They can't maintain the partnership. They can't maintain any sense of real parenting. They can't maintain their career. And that's because the way they're doing it, the way we've been taught to do it, is this. And that is, should be this, should do that, should do this. And the root care work brings us back into what's real for me right now. Like right now, what's real for me is what changes that, so that we can be navigating our care in a sustainable way, because it's not out here, which is exhausting. That's this. It's what we've been trained to do. That's the should that we can all, and how long can you maintain that, right? When we come into here, it's about, it's a whole different discernment process.
So I'm curious for the women who are watching, how did this information or this knowledge or this training impact you? Like, where did it begin for you?
Yeah. So when I was 18, I was 18, was 19. I dropped out of college because I had a mental breakdown. I had a really good therapist who said, you might be bipolar, you might be manic depressive, but I want you to track your menstrual cycle, because I think you might have PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder.
Oh.
And so it's looked similar to like a manic up and then a depressive blow. And she said, I want you to track it. So I tracked 3 cycles, and I saw that it was indeed like clockwork, even down to hiccups. When I wanted to break up, when I wanted to have sex, when I wanted to take a nap, when I wanted to get in a fight, when I wanted to be left alone, when I wanted to see a million friends, when I felt great, when I hated myself, hormonal clockwork. And I had enough, my upbringing is very progressive in terms of being holistic. And so I had enough of a foundation that I took that as big signaling from my body that I needed to be paying attention to something. So that directed my focus towards my root, because the thing that was telling the story was my menstrual cycle. So that was, over 15 years ago now. And what it first took me into was big emotional tracking, and a process of unshaming the womb, and unshaming being a cyclical being, right? I had been told my whole life that I was too loud, too expressive, too much. And then when I was like, that's when I was like fun and happy. And then when I was sad, I was too sad, too emotional, needed too much. And then I would go between these things, and what my body was telling me, screaming at me to do differently, was to stop trying to manage either side of that part of myself. And so that's how I got into the womb work and the womb energy. And then I had a partner, and we had ceremonial sex, and halfway through, I had this like kind of like a holy piercing, really divine masculine, like And I looked at this woman and I said, "You're the first man who's ever fucked me." That's super real. It was this like divine masculine energy that came through and split me open. And I started having severe pelvic pain within about 2 weeks.
Mm.
And my whole pelvis, my whole pelvic floor, my vulva, my clitoral fascia, everything just was just, I said, the temple is closed for restoration. And I called a friend and I said, at this point I'd been a body worker for 15 years, and I had body work in my nose, in my ears, in my armpits, in the back of my knee, and like in intergalactic travel to myself in the universe. And I was like, but there's this like 3-inch zone between my legs. It's been off limits, right? Like nobody can go there. And I was like, and it's screaming, and it's not the job of a lover to go in and fix that. It's like, I need help. And so I only knew one person who had gone to Burning Man and had a wild, like, healing, I think a yonic temple experience. And I said, like, help. And she handed me a book, Tammy Kent's Wild Feminine. And it's like, cannot recommend it enough, required reading for everybody. Don't care. Give it a read. And I read that book. I did a women's group for myself. I led other women through the book. And then a year later, I went and studied with the author and became a certified holistic pelvic care provider. And then since then, and then integrated that work into this kind of much deeper body of work that I kind of had going. So, in both cases, the concept of coming into my body, and then also literally entering my body and doing the body work inside the vagina, doing body work in my rectum, doing the pelvic floor from the inside, connecting to my womb and my cervix and my ovaries, all of that space, happened because I was in excruciating pain and I needed help. And it helped. That's the great news. It helped.
Yeah,
it helped.
It worked. And it works.
It worked. It absolutely worked. Absolutely worked. I have most of my sex now, like my pelvic pain comes as a little tiny twinge that says you're holding. This is a great example of the theme of this, which is my pelvic pain still comes in as a little moment of like, you're holding back your truth.
Something. Yeah.
That's what it says. Something like a little bit of a grip that says like, you're still running that pattern, Sophia, of like trying to just get by. But it's like, I don't live that way. It's like, and that shows up and I'm like, oh, I got to make a different choice. So it works. It really works.
Yeah.
And the leadership is really different. The way that because I'm leading my own life and that is different,
It's really interesting to touch this because when we talk about leadership, and I've been touching this word with other speakers for this day as well, that when we talk about leadership, what we often think is, the job that we do, or the business that we have, or the corporate that we are in, the team that we have to lead. But right now, with the rising feminine, the leadership is a very personal journey, a very intimate journey. And as you said, that we are required to own this leadership sovereignty within ourselves, and a lot of it comes from the root up.
I think it's really a matter of respect. It's like we want to respect each other. I think that's part of, we want to respect the planet. Like, I think that's everyone, like, most people want that right now, right? Like, if we were to take a poll, like, do you want more respect? Do you want respect of our environment, respect of our children, respect of our lives, respect of our health? The answer is like, yes, please, that would be great.
Yeah.
But then there's this really deep question of like, do you respect yourself? Do you know? And how? Like, how? Like, do you know what respecting yourself even is? Do you know what you're needing? Do you know what your preferences are? Do you know the difference? And who are you making responsible for these things?
Yeah.
This question of responsibility and leadership is really big. And who has the authority? It's not an accident. We talked about this, Janita, too, when you came on the podcast, of like, it's not an accident. It's been millennia of convincing us that we don't have ownership or the authority over our own bodies or our own lives, right? Like, we didn't make up this game. It wasn't like at 14, I was like, you know what? I'll just give up the authority. Like, no, it's like deep, 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 deep in there. And so it's this big process of, like I said, like all of this of like, Like, this is the place of authority.
So for the women watching, let's get into some practical tips on
Mhm.
how one can begin this connection with our pelvic floor. Where to begin? Like, let's say I have no idea.
Yep.
Where do I start from?
Great. So the first thing that I recommend people doing is actually just placing their hands on their hips, like physically putting their hands on their body, on their hips, and then taking their breath there, setting a timer for 2 minutes and seeing if you can keep your focus in your root, touching. And if it's hard, which it is for many people the first time they do this, is to bring your hands off your body and to bring your hands firmer onto your body. So to give a sense of a dynamic sense of bringing your awareness and your sensitivity. So to start with that place of contact off the body, on the body, firmly on the body, and see where you can connect, where you start to drift. And so to just do that kind of basic practice, I recommend it off the body at first because many people will actually entirely dissociate the first time they go inside their own vulva and vagina. Or if they don't do it the first time, it can be so activating that they don't want to go back in a second time. So I really recommend like slowing down, just like starting from the outside and just on the outside of the hips, breathing in and out, or holding your own root, just like hugging yourself in there, breathing in and out, using the breath, breathing in and out, coming in, setting a timer, exploring, and then working towards in the shower or laying in bed in a non-turned on state. Feel free to use lubrication or whatever it is, going in and just exploring the different areas. Just that alone without anything else, because the texture is different towards the front, the anterior of the body, the back body, the sides. Some of it's very like vaginal tissue, seems like it's there. You hit muscles and tendons, and it's like a wild landscape in there. And so just to go in and start to feel your own space. So that is a really like practical, like coming in. And what's interesting about this is that the work gets deeper and deeper and more expansive, but it has this simplicity to it of like just being able to touch your own body like that can be
Without
really,
judgment.
without judgment, can be so radical in and of itself. So the practice is like, keep going. Like, I just want to be like, and then do this, and then do this, and then do this. Cause obviously that's what I do. That's what I like to do with people.
So how is that related to, so let's say like me as a woman is feeling like I'm blocked in expressing myself. I have a hard
Great.
time expressing myself. So what practical tool or tip or advice you can give? Because I know so many of us relate that, I'm not fully being myself. I'm in the shoes and I wish to be fully me in my sacred leadership.
Yeah. There's so many different ways to come into this, Janita. I just want to listen to see. We talked about before we came on, like this stream here. This is what's coming in for me. Connecting our body to our voice and our voice to our body in the simplest practice can, in this very subtle and yet profound way, work its way into very external spaces. So what comes up for me is either outside on your hips, or walking your fingers across your pelvis and working the inside of your thighs, or going inside your own body to do it with an open mouth and audible breath.
Exactly.
And so when you go, like I'm so radical. I'm sitting here bleeding, like free bleeding. So it's like I'm sitting here just like bleeding onto a pad as I am sitting in this room. And like this is me. It's like I'm so connected to my body that I'm like tempted to just like while we're here on the phone, just like, it's like, go inside, just do it with you right now. Just like go inside, pull out my bloody finger. And it's like super normal for me. But go inside and this like this drop. The cervix, the vocal cords, they're very similar. They have a resonance. So being able to open the throat, literally open the legs. So spread the legs open. Or if you feel tight, be tight. So put your hand inside or on the outside, pull your legs together, pull your shoulder and throat together, and make that sound. If that makes sense, speaking to authenticity, that I don't want you to I don't want you to feel like this is an invitation to go in and just make pretty sounds. This is an invitation to make all the sounds, like the delicious, yummy, melt you, make you feel like a goddess that's like birthing the cosmos in a great sexy way. And also that like shrieking banshee who was never allowed to ask her what she wants or get it, or the like whimpering child who feels alone, or the like excited, giddy, youthful, like those are all just sounds, and any words that want to come out too. So it's pretty radical. It's like, I really invite, this is the kind of thing that I tell people and people go, oh yeah, okay, that's a good idea. And then don't go anywhere near it because it's intimidating. And so
It's really scary.
really scary. I really want to invite you to put on some music, set a timer, 5 minutes. 5 minutes, 2 minutes, like one song,
Yeah,
you know, one song, just one track, just put it on loud and hear your own voice. Because you know, when people are getting a massage or someone does something, it feels really good. It's like, or it's like, oh, it's like, make enough contact with yourself that you want to make a sound. And if you don't want to make a sound, just start making sounds.
Yeah.
Just start making sounds, freeing the voice.
And see how it feels.
And see how it feels. Because the whole point of this is like the unshoulding is like, I'm not telling you what it should sound like or feel like. That's not what, I'm not going to tell you that. So like, if you want to know how to do it right, exactly. If you want to know how to do this right, I can't help you. I'm like not playing that game anymore. So like the invitation is to find yourself, find what you love about it, find what you hate about it. Like find out that you don't want to make any sounds. Find out that you make way different sounds than you thought you would make. Find out you're kind of like you thought you were, just a little bit different, right? Like all of the above, none of them, same time.
Yeah. It's really interesting you shared this because when I do my Jada initiation circles, this is what I notice as well, that, you know, it all involves opening that area of your body and then the sounds, the movement and the breath. And so many of the women are like trying to do it with the tight jaw, closed mouth, and I keep saying like, breathe, open your jaw a little bit, just begin to just start breathing from your mouth, exhaling through the mouth, and that like activates. But there is so much conditioning. I know for myself it was really hard to make a sound.
Yeah.
You know? And we've been, you know, in a way taught what sounds to make in the bedroom.
Oh yeah. Oh sure.
So we go by that. But yeah, releasing the sounds through the breath.
And then where we're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Who we're allowed to make those sounds for. Yeah, right? I mean, I know lots of people who will feel comfortable making sounds in the bedroom, but wouldn't feel very weird about making sounds while they're self-pleasuring. Right? And so it's like, because who's that sound for? Right? Well, as other people feel very free by themselves, they make all these sounds and then they get in like a lovemaking with someone else situation and it goes way, you know? And so it's like, that's just information. That's just about understanding that you get to, you know, be more vocal, more direct about creating a safe space, making choices for yourself about what you want. Yeah.
It's really beautiful. I know from my first experience when I started doing this work, I went into a fit of cough. I just couldn't stop coughing.
Yes.
Like coughing and I realized like, what the hell? Like I thought I'm gonna die of cough. I couldn't breathe. And I later on realized like what a release it was for my throat chakra, for my throat itself, and so much blockage I had. That was opening through my pelvic.
Yeah, I'm really, really glad you said that, Jonita, because the cough, that clearing cough can happen from anywhere in the body. That it's it's the body's wisdom moving, doing a contraction and a move and a sound. And I want to speak to this because you said we've been so conditioned that what sounds we're allowed to make. And I want to make the connection here between sound and sound wave and rise and cultural impact. And like, we want to make a sound. We want to make the sound we want to make, and we want that sound to be heard.
Yeah.
Heard.
Yeah.
Heard.
Oh
Boof.
yeah.
Right? And so recognizing that, where does that sound come from? Right? Who is that sound for? That sound is for everyone. It's for everyone. And it's from us, right?
This
Different.
is beautiful. I love this. So, Sophia, I know you have a free gift for women watching. Would you like to share about that a little bit?
I would love to. I have a 4-part video series that walks you through getting connected to your root. And it starts with, the first of the 4 is the just putting your hands on the outside of your body. It doesn't even go to internal work, though it does, reference to, and there's lots of resources for going into the internal work. It's about connecting the breath, the energy, the focus, the attention, being able to bring the presence there. Because when you can get the presence into your root, then these things that we're talking about that can seem kind of weird or disconnected start to make much more sense. They happen organically, and that can feel really supported. So I want to offer that with you, that video series, so you can all just walk through that with those practices and breathe in and start being able to listen and hear your own root voice.
Yeah, beautiful. And I will have the link just below this video so that you can check Sophia's beautiful work and what she brings out to the world. Her podcast is amazing. I've been on it and I've always followed what she's on to. So you're going to get a lot of inspiration from there. So highly recommend watching all the links that are below this video. So Sophia, before we close, I'd like to ask you a question. What does rising feminine mean to you in this moment? What comes up in a sentence?
The healing of the waters.
Oh.
The waters, the waters, the waters.
Mm. Oh. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your presence and everything you shared, your time, and the gift that you bring to this world by being this beautiful self. Thank you, sister.
Oh, thank you, Janita, and thank you for your work in this space. Thank you. Thank you, initiates. Blessings.
Yay.